That's so good. It's 318 pages, so it was quick to read.
And you read it on your Kindle?
I read it on my Kindle, yeah. Are you recording?
I am.
Oh, shoot.
Welcome back to the Book Barn.
Today is our library edition. We have one book that we'll be discussing together, and then each of us will have a book from our own libraries.
I'm Lainey.
And I'm Laisha.
And let's talk books. So today our episode has 3 very different genres. Yep. I did a fantasy. I love fantasy.
I have a romance.
I haven't read many romances lately. And then, of course, the one that we did together is a thriller.
We hope you enjoy it.
So one of our books today is a Freida McFadden, The Boyfriend. You found the book on Hoopla for free.
Gotta love free.
So when you said you were listening to it, I thought, why not? So I started listening to it as well.
And guess what?
What?
I'm not even finished. So no spoilers.
No spoilers today.
This one was kind of a slow start for me. It is an audio version, and I had trouble getting into it for some reason. I think I was just easily distracted too. I didn't have a lot of great moments to just sit and listen to the book, and nor did I have any road trips or anything like that where I was able to just focus. But yeah, I'm about 65% done, and so now I'm hooked.
Good.
What do you think?
I do like the book. When I was finished with it, I was happy with the ending.
Oh, good.
I'm being very guarded here. I enjoyed it. I would not put this on the same playing field as The Housemaid, one of her other books that we've reviewed. So I did like it. I'm glad I read it. Yeah. I would recommend it.
Well, we have kind of a dual timeline with this one, and that might have been what sort of confused me in the beginning, because we have our main character, Sydney.
We do.
And do you want to tell about Sydney a little bit?
Sure. So Sydney's on a quest. She's wanting to find the perfect man. She's on this dating app, and she also had been in a relationship with another gentleman for a while. I don't remember if she met him on that app or not. But anyway, she goes on a date with one of the app guys, and it goes bad.
Yeah.
So
he tries to take it a little too far, and she's saying no. And there's a mystery man that comes out of nowhere. They're walking on the street when this occurs, and he kind of rescues her.
Yeah,
saves
good-looking
her.
guy, chemistry, but she doesn't get his name or number.
No, she was disappointed that he didn't ask for her name even or number. And so she tries to find him on the dating app, but no luck.
And they do kind of meet up again later in the book. And this bad date, the guy that was on the bad date, he pops in to the story.
Yeah, a few times.
Several
He's
times.
In and out of stuff. So there's a character named Tom that we learn about. She just calls it before. Before what? I'm not even quite sure about yet, but before. And we hear about him in high school.
Yes.
And then we hear about Sydney and her relationships and her friendships in present day.
Yes.
So it's interesting. It's different from any of the others that I've read of hers, because we've got that kind of flashback
back
there.
and forth.
Yeah.
I will say that Tom does show up in present day as well. But Tom is a boy that has some very strange urges.
I'm not even sure what to say about that. He wants to be a doctor, but for some very weird reasons.
Right. So back in present day with Sydney, there's been some murders, like several murders. One of her friends is killed. And you're constantly, and this is the way Freida McFadden writes, you're constantly trying to figure out who in the world is the bad guy.
I have a good list of suspects going on here.
And I did as well. And I kept telling myself, I don't want Laisha to think I'm being naive. I don't want her to think, because with Freida McFadden, whoever you think it is, it probably isn't.
It probably isn't, yeah.
I thought I had it all figured out. And at the end, I was like, okay.
Well, I'm excited to find out.
It's good. I liked it. Freida McFadden keeps us on our toes. Just when you think you've figured it out, she throws another twist. So I'm excited to hear what you think when you finish.
I'll let you know.
I would not give this one maybe quite a 4. I would say just right under a 4. More than a 3, but not quite a 4.
Gotcha. All right, Lainey. It is your turn.
Whoop, whoop.
What book do you have today?
Okay, well, before I tell you my book title, I am going to tell you about some of my experiences.
Okay.
So many years ago, I had a friend that talked me into reading a book series that I really didn't think I was interested in. And so she talked me into it, and I dove in, and I loved this series. I'm not a late night girl. I go to bed early, not a night owl at all. But with this series, when the new book came out, we drove to the city. We went to a bookstore so that we could get our midnight copy of the book. It was so much fun. And then drove back home from the city, and then I stayed up the rest of the night reading.
My.
I was itching to know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Then fast forward, those books became movies, and they had midnight viewings of the movies.
Wow.
And so we'd get our coffee and stand in line and get into the theater and stay up watching the movie. It was so much fun. So what's my book?
Harry Potter.
It is Harry Potter. I am a Harry Potter fan, big time. So when I was told that this other book was very much like an adult Harry Potter, I was in. In fact, I texted my Harry Potter friends and was like, this is what we've been waiting for. And so my book is called Fourth Wing. It's written by Rebecca Yarros, Fly or Die. And it is fantasy. It is adult, but it is wonderful. So let me tell you all about it.
Yeah, can't wait to hear.
So good. So first of all, our author. Rebecca Yarros is a New York Times best-selling author. On her website, she says, I've adored reading all my life, and writing naturally evolved from my love of late nights and promises of one more page. This book has been compared to Game of Thrones, meets Hunger Games, with some Harry Potter and some Divergent. So if you love any of those books, Fourth Wing is for you. Inside the cover of the book, they have a map. And I used that map because you are in this world that she's created, and you can kind of keep track of where things are happening by flipping back and forth to the map. So I recommend that. I use that quite a bit. This is about a college. The college is divided into 4 quadrants. And so these students go into one of the 4 quadrants. That's why it reminds me of Harry Potter. Because in Harry Potter, you've got a school, and the kids are all sorted into different houses. I am a Hufflepuff. I have been sorted. In this book, it's a college, and it's divided into 4 quadrants. So you either are a writer, a healer, a scribe, or you're in the infantry. So riders actually ride on dragons and fight from dragons. Healers do what the name says, they heal. And then scribes. Scribes are the ones that keep track of the written history. They're surrounded by books.
Okay.
And then there's infantry, and it does what it says. They fight. So, Violet Sorrengail, she is our main character. And all of her life, she thinks she's going to be a scribe. She wants to be surrounded by books. And her dad was a scribe, and that's what she prepared for. But then her dad died. And when her dad died, her mother, who is a general, she's the commanding general, decides differently for her. She says that Violet is going to be a rider. She's going to ride dragons. So that's how we get started. On page 1, it says, hundreds of them have been preparing for the writer's quadrant, the chance to become one of the elite, since birth. But Violet only had 6 months. Yikes. So that is where we begin. So her sister Myra is also a writer, and she's very much like her mother, strong, good at what she does. She's everything that Violet's not. Violet is small, she's fragile, and on page 2 it says the weak don't survive here, especially not in the writer's quadrant. The dragons make sure of that. And so from the very beginning, you feel and you know that she's at a disadvantage. And Myra tries to help her sister. She teaches her lots of things that she needs to know. She repacks her bag. She changes her clothing, her boots. She does everything to try to give this younger sister a leg up. And so the first thing she prepares her for is to get to the college, the writer's part of the college, you have to cross a parapet. And lots of people die on that. It's almost like a bridge to the college. And so she prepares her for that. And later on in the book, she also gives her, kind of secretly, a book that the brother had written. And the brother is no longer with them. He's died. He was a writer as well. So we call it the Book of Brennan. And Brennan was very much loved by the entire family. And in this book, if you die, the families burn all your possessions. You can't keep anything. So the fact that this book still exists is a big deal.
Something, huh?
Yeah, it's a big deal. And so Myra helps Violet, and she makes it past the parapet. I'll tell you that part. Obviously, the book would be over if she didn't.
Yeah.
And she gets to the college. And dragons are a main part of this story. They are majestic, they're powerful, they're intelligent, and you fall in love with some of them. And they form deep bonds with their riders. But they have to choose their riders. And they look for qualities such as bravery and those that are strong. And remember, Violet is fragile and weak. So most riders, even if they get chosen by a dragon, don't make it to retirement. Most of them will die. The kingdom's protective wards are failing, and in every turn of the book, it seems like another student dies. Is Violet's wing leader out to get her? Is her childhood friend Dane going to keep her safe? Who are her friends? Who are her enemies? Will Violet even graduate? Will she die? It is a really great book. It's a roller coaster ride.
No bookmark necessary. Iron Flame is the second book of the series. I downloaded that one, the audio version from Hoopla. Fantastic. Every character has their voice. It's dramatized. So it's like watching a movie, except for you don't see it. You just hear it. So good. And then Onyx Storm. It's available now as well. So I'm super excited to get my copy.
You won't be disappointed if you love fantasy. Goodreads gives it 4.58, and I think that's pretty accurate. It is being adapted into a TV show. It's called Fourth Wing, written by Rebecca Yarros.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Okay. So the book that I would like to talk about today is Running Barefoot by Amy Harmon.
I haven't even heard of
You
that.
haven't even heard of it. Have you heard of Amy Harmon?
No.
No, I mean, I really hadn't either. But, you know, as we've told our listeners before, I really just started reading again when we started our book club. I'm discovering authors that maybe others have heard about for quite a while. You know, I'm just getting into this reading game here.
Sure.
So Amy Harmon published this book, Running Barefoot, in 2012. So it's an older
book.
It is, yes. It was actually her debut novel. I loved it.
That's
Yeah,
exciting.
Yes. So I would not think that this was a debut novel. Her writing style just got me. Oh, it was so poignant and it was lovely. It was just lovely. So let me give you a little bit of an overview. Running Barefoot tells the story of Josie Jensen, an awkward but talented 13-year-old musical prodigy, and Samuel Yates, an 18-year-old Navajo boy full of anger and confusion. Sharing a bus seat to and from school, we see an unlikely friendship blossom. Josie introduces Samuel to classical music and the beauty of words, while Samuel shares the rich traditions of his Navajo heritage. After graduation, Samuel leaves their sleepy little town to find his own way, and Josie struggles with the loss of their friendship. Many years go by, and Samuel returns, finding Josie in need of the very things she offered him years before. Their roles reversed, Samuel teaches Josie about life, love, and letting go.
Okay, so as you're telling me about this book, the first thing that pops in my head is this anything like It Ends With Us?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, because when you talked about being on the bus and him helping her and her helping him, it reminded me of Atlas and Lily.
Okay, well, if we go back to Atlas and Lily, it maybe a little bit. So the story is narrated in first person by Josie. It is set in a small town in the middle of Utah. And on page 3, there is a paragraph that got me hooked. And I'm going to read it. Perhaps the smallness of that world made my early loss more bearable, simply because I was looked after and loved by so many. It made my later loss harder to recover from, however, because it was a collective loss. A very young life snuffed out on the brink, a shock to the sleepy community. No one expected me to move on. Like a shoe that has lost its mate, I had lost my matching part, and I didn't know how to run barefoot. So Josie goes on to say her early loss was her mother. She had died of cancer when Josie was almost 9, and Josie felt that it was her responsibility to fill her mother's shoes. She imagined that she was Snow White, taking care of the 7 messy dwarves. She said taking care of her dad and her brothers gave her a purpose and made her love them even more. So Josie describes being overwhelmed with her grief, and she would ride her bike to the cemetery, and she would lean against her mother's grave and cry and read books. And she read books like Anne of Green Gables and Where the Red Fern Grows and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and Jane Eyre and more. She had tried to read Wuthering Heights and hated it, thinking that the characters were horrible people. So one day, when she was reading in the cemetery, Josie noticed a white Cadillac, which was an unusual vehicle for Levin, and she decided to follow it. It went to a fancy neighborhood where the houses were typically summer home rentals, and the windows were open, and she heard someone playing the piano, and she listened in awe. And I'm going to read one more passage and then no more. This is still on chapter 2. It's page 11. Music had never made me cry before, and these weren't sad tears. The music I was hearing made me feel the way I sometimes felt in church when I sang songs about God or Jesus, but it made me feel that way without any words. I love words. I was surprised that music could talk to me without speaking. I love words too, Josie, and I thought those were beautiful words. Well, Josie couldn't stop thinking about the music, and a few days later, she meets the woman who had been playing the piano. Her name is Sonia Grimaldi, a retired music professor, and Sonia becomes her music teacher, her mentor, and a very good adult friend, especially to someone without a mother. Sonia taught her about classical music and famous composers. And by the way, Josie learned to play the piano quickly and beautifully, and she even composed music too. She was very talented. And Sonia knew that Josie loved to read, and she gifted Josie a dictionary. And Josie loved her dictionary. She'd look up any word that she didn't know. And aside from being emotionally mature, Josie was also physically ahead of girls her age. So she was tall and well-developed with curves that made her feel self-conscious. So she mostly kept to herself. That is, until she met Samuel. Samuel had been living on the reservation with his mother and stepfather, who were both Navajo, but that was not going well for various reasons. So he came to live with his grandparents in Levin, his father's parents. And he's dealing with racism. Some of the kids in school are giving him trouble, but he dealt with that on the reservation too. Being half white and half Navajo, in Levin, he's too brown, and on the reservation, he's too white. So it's sad, and he's dealing with a lot of inner turmoil. But their friendship blossoms. It's not romantic. Josie is a young girl, and Samuel knows that. He's protective of her and obviously cares for her. Josie has great affection for Samuel. But Samuel does graduate and leave. He joins the Marines. And so now I don't want to tell too much more about their story because I don't want to spoil anything. I would recommend this book to someone who loves classical music or classic literature. I also found the Native American traditions and the beliefs that the author wove into Samuel's story to be quite interesting. So someone could really enjoy that too. It is one book that I wish I could read for the first time again. Running Barefoot by Amy Harmon.
I want to talk about your book from our last episode.
Okay.
You recommended Statistically Speaking by Debbie Johnson. Oh my goodness.
It's so good.
It was so good. So I went to Hoopla and I downloaded the audiobook.
Okay.
And the audio is read by, I have it down here somewhere, Louise Williams. It's excellent.
Good.
So good. Every time I walked on the treadmill, I listened to it. Every time I was in the car, I listened to it. And it just went by very quickly.
Yeah, I figured it was probably going to be a good audiobook.
Loved it.
Good.
So good. Okay. You're not going to think this, but this is what I think. It reminded me a little bit of when we did Hello Beautiful. And the reason why I say that is this book kind of breaks your heart, but then it kind of glues your heart back together. Mm-hmm. So that's why it was kind of the same vibe for me as Hello Beautiful.
Yeah, this one was a lot more humorous, though.
True.
Yes, very funny. Yeah,
very true.
Funny writing. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I made the side note to let you know that it's really important to have a tribe, and you're my tribe. Oh. But the whole book, I thought, man, teachers would love reading this book. Mm-hmm. I think anyone that has adopted or fostered or anything like that would just, this book would be everything to them. So good.
Yeah.
Good recommendation.
I'm glad.
I also want to talk about There's No Place Like Home by Michelle Lynn Ross. And we're going to cover this more later. So on our Facebook page, we're doing a 3-book for 3-month kind of challenge. And this was one of the books that was a part of that challenge.
Yep.
So I finished it. It just feels, I hope you feel this way when you finish it. It feels very much like home. Like the things she says in the book, you're like, yep, that's Southeast Kansas for sure. So I liked it. It was comfortable, cute story. And I just kind of bounced along with it. I liked it. I hope you enjoy it too. We're recording right before an expected winter storm, and I'm kind of hoping for a snow day so that I can read all day.
Yeah, I bet you get it.
Maybe. They're saying up to 12 inches. We'll see.
Yeah. And cold. So cold.
It's cold now. It was 17 degrees this morning.
I know, but it's going to be like -5 or more. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So we should talk about our March book. It was going to be Doubt by John Patrick Shanley. Is that right? But he canceled.
He was supposed to be the honoree. Is
yes,
that what he was?
I guess that's what they call it.
He was going to be the playwright at the William Inge Festival in Independence, Kansas.
Which is right up the road from us.
Yeah, so we were really excited about that because we thought maybe we'd get to meet him in person and
I wanted to get my book signed, all that good stuff. But he canceled for whatever reason. And it's a short book. Doubt is, I think I'll still read it. But we're changing gear. Our March book is now going to be A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall. So when I finish The Tattooist, I guess that's the next book I'll head towards.
Okay.
Either that or I still kind of want to do that 3 for 3 books for 3 months. I have not read Raven yet.
I want to. I have it on my Kindle.
Me too. It's downloaded. And that's one of our friends from
High school.
Grade school, high school, middle school. You know, we kind of grew up with her. She does not write under the name that we knew her by. What is her pen name?
Anne Gregor.
Gregor. Yes,
Anne
Anne Gregor. So that one I'd like to dive into as well. I am also, for those that are listening, going to drop our April book. Just so you guys are in the know, we'll be reading The Wedding People by, I don't know how to say her name.
I don't even know it.
I may have wrote it incorrectly. It looks like, I'm not even going to try.
Okay.
So, yeah, lots of good things happening. Too funny.
Well, thank you for joining us today, everyone. Until next time, I'm Leisha.
And I'm Lainey. And keep those bookmarks bouncing.
What was that noise? She meets Samuel on the school bus. I'm repeating myself now here. Okay.
Oh, I totally messed that up. Blech.